Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for being here with us. I hope Pool is full of life for you and your loved ones. I'm Samara Concepcion, and I'm here with a very dear guest today called Te Kaha. Te Kaha is a traditional Tūhoe birthkeeper, a Hapuutanga practitioner, and a master Pounamu carver from a land most of you will know as New Zealand. Welcome, Te Kaha.
Kia ora, tēnā koutou, nā mihi atu ki o koutou, Maori ora ki o tātou katoa. Kia ora, Samara.
Thank you. I first heard about you, Te Kaha, through a beautiful heart-led midwife called Ibu Robin Lim, and immediately felt a deep respect for your work with couples, and as you say, the emerging beings who have chosen these couples to be their parents. And so it's a real honor to be in conversation with you here today and to be welcoming you in London in October this year to share with us your traditions around pregnancy and birth. And this is really important to me because it's my wish that Birth a New Story is not just a documentary film, but really a school of learning and an opportunity to remember, restore and reclaim our lost sense of reverence for the significance of pregnancy and birth as events that really shape our future. I deeply believe that the way we welcome new life into the world touches all of us, whether we choose to have children or not. Pregnancy and birth are experiences that we all go through, that we all live. And so Te Kaha, I would love you to tell us more about Hapuutanga and how it's different from the medical model of birth, which really has become the norm for people around the world.
Okay, kia ora, Samara. First, let me just clarify something. I'm not an expert on conventional, as they call it, or mainstream birthing practices. I know a bit about it, but nowhere near as much as I know as in sort of Hapuutanga. I know that intervention birthing, which is what's practiced generally at hospitals and birthing suites, is exactly that. They intervene. It seems to be. But so I just wanted to clarify that because when I talk about Hapuutanga, I talk about natural forms of birthing. Like understanding for our wahine, our women, that to believe in themselves. If they've so long as they've had a pregnancy where they're eating well. And, in today's information world, you know how to find out what good food is and what not so good food is and what really bad food is. So, if you're choosing to eat healthy food, if you're choosing to, have healthy, life-sustaining liquid intake, and, if you're choosing to consciously be active during your pregnancy, you don't have to do massive workouts, but a little bit of exercise, then there's no reason why you cannot have a natural birth. I mean, as humans, we're biologically programmed to do this. We've been doing it a long time. And so for my people, that's what we've done. We've tuned in to the biology of our ancestors. See, we have a word, it's called atua, right? The atua, the English arrived here and they translated, well, the Christians actually, they translated the word to mean God. And atua is a being who has supernatural powers. And they said, well, that's a God. So a lot of people in my country assume that the word atua means God. Well, it doesn't. A better translation of the word atua is ancestral power in its fullest potential. See, that's an atua. Now the atua Okay, we come from them. We were created from them. We descend from them. All right. The atua have given us the ability to do everything that we need to do to have a good existence. And that includes birthing. You see? So part of the learning process that myself and my wife went through when we started learning Hapuutanga 18 years ago was my wife started learning how to believe in herself, to believe in her ancestral lineage, to believe that her ancestors had been doing this forever. You know, we gave up coffee. That was a hard one for us because we used to love coffee. I used to love mochachinos. We gave up dairy. You know, we were already drug and alcohol free, you see, but we wanted to, you know, give our baby the best possible chance. You know, so we made sure to do the work. See, my people believe that, you know, the atua are not here to carry us. They're kind of here to meet us halfway. So we do what's humanly possible, they'll do the rest. Yeah? And the reason I talk about our atua is because the practices of Hapuutanga includes ancestral knowledge. By believing that you as a woman are fully able and capable to do this, you believe in yourself. You believe that your ancestors are there with you, okay? They're in your bones, they're in your blood, they're in your flesh, they're in your DNA. They've given you the ability to do this. And that belief is very important because in today's world, you know, that back door is always there. Give me the gas, give me the injection. I don't want to feel this pain anymore. Stop it, you know. Yeah, I want it over with. Get it out. You know, this back door is always there. And you know, sad, well, not sad, but sometimes, well, a lot of the times actually, women take that back door or families encourage them, you know, and they do it. But Hapuutanga is not only about working with the men to help their wives, to help their partners, to help their daughters, their granddaughters, their whoever, you know, working with the partners, whether your partner is identifies as a woman, a man, it doesn't really matter. Whoever your partner is, Hapuutanga is not only working with them, but it's working with you. It's teaching you how to communicate with your partner and how that partner can communicate with you. And in the doing of that communication, you communicate with that emerging being that's coming, you see? So it's the three of you. So Hapuutanga and understanding, you know, who we are as people, who we come from, because, well, you know, us Maori people, for us, it's very important to know our whakapapa, all right? Whakapapa, that word is like two words, eh? The first part of that word means to cause to happen or to, yeah. And papa means the earth. So whakapapa means how we arrived here, who we are in the present moment from the very beginning, from our mother, the earth. Our whakapapa is our lineage going back in time to the beginning of time. So whakapapa is very important. And all of those ancestors, we know them. You know, we can recite who we are and how we got here. We can recite how the atua came to be here, how the earth and the sky came to be here. And these are all really important because when we talk about, you know, the oral history of the earth and the sky being the primordial parents and how the love that they had for each other, okay, gave life to their children, and how those children created the first woman. See, Maori people, we're pretty clever, you know. We knew that the first human being, okay, was not a man. It wasn't some bloke, it was a woman. And in our culture, you know, we have one of the foundations of our culture, okay, is what we call the tuakana taina principle, the elder and the younger. The younger must always respect the older, always. It's bred into our culture. So women are the tuakana. They are the elder. They were here first. Us men, we came last. So we, part of our culture, that is an integral part of our culture, but it's all been changed over the last 200 years. Because we live today in, I think they call it a patriarchal society, where the man is the head of the family. That's not how our culture originated. Our women are the elders, not our men. But moving on from there are some of us that still understand this. Okay, and knowing this, we know that our women, our women make possible the impossible.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah, totally. And this is why I'm saying, you men out there listening to this, wait until you watch your wife give birth. Wait until you actually feel the vibrations in her body when the contractions are crashing. They're like smashing their way through her entire being. Wait until she's holding your shoulders and she's contracting, and the contractions are 2 minutes apart, 3 minutes apart. And when you feel the concentration, when you feel the pain, when you feel the amazing event that is taking place, you begin to get a sense of how incredibly strong, resilient, and amazing our women truly are. Okay, this is Hapuutanga. Understanding that what is happening, that this process, has been given to us from ancestral understanding, ancestral knowledge, ancestral power in its full potential. See, that's an atama.
Can I just clarify, Kaha, because I'm aware that there's a lot of us out there, me included, who, didn't grow up close to our families, our lineages. And I just want people out there to know, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, but I certainly feel my ancestors very close and very much within me, even though I didn't spend time with them.
Okay, look, this is something that is happening more and more in my culture as well. After the Second World War, there was a concerted effort by, all previous governments here in New Zealand to move the Maori people, to urbanize them. And they were very successful. 80 years of urbanization, you've got, 3, 4, sometimes 5 generations of Maori people living in the cities who have no idea. You have, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of, no, it'll probably only be hundreds of thousands. We're only 15% of the population. But there'll be hundreds of thousands of Maori people who really don't know the connection, who don't have that connection. And so we're dealing with this problem all the time here in Aotearoa. And one of the ways that I'm addressing this is that I'm making sure that my children know who they are, where they come from. Now, I've spoken with people who, like you, are not close to their families, who don't know what, in some instances, they don't even know who their grandparents are, let alone their great-grandparents and their great-great-grandparents. That's okay. Because the reality is, if you didn't have a mother and you didn't have a biological father, you wouldn't be here. So if you don't know who those people are, it's still okay. Because all you need to do is sit down in a quiet space where you're feeling comfortable, safe, where you're reasonably warm, and just go inwards. See, as a parent, I know, one of the questions I'll be asking at one of our workshops is, how many people are parents right now? I know people will put their hands up, right? And you go, do you love your children? And they all, well, the majority of them nod yes. Some of them sort of think about it for a while and go, oh, yeah, I suppose so. So they go, yep. And then I go, so being dead, is that going to alter how you feel about your children? when you're no longer living? Are you still going to have the same love if possible? If you can still have that feeling of love, are you still going to have that for your children? They all say yes. So regardless of whether you know who your parents were, your grandparents, your great-grandparents, your great-great-grandparents, it doesn't matter, because they still love you. They will still connect with you whenever and however they can. And if they get a person, you know, who comes along, who can actually talk to them, not you, who can actually talk to them and say, hey, listen, can you please give me a hand, do some work here with, your descendant? They will jump at the opportunity to help that person. They really will. They will jump at the opportunity to help direct that person to where their descendant needs some work. You just have to trust the process. You are a biological being, which means that you've got parents, you've got grandparents, you are connected. Just because you're not conscious of that connection doesn't mean to say it's still, it's not there. And, I've talked with people who hated one of their parents, or whose parents were horrible to them. And that's a fact of life. We'll bypass those people, go to their parents. And you'll find, if you don't find joy that go to their parents, you will find relatives who love you, who want to support you. Okay? It's not something that you really, can give physical proof of, except to say the proof is by looking at yourself, by feeling yourself. You would not be here if you didn't have these ancestors, these people, and they do love you. I know this. As a parent, I know that this is true. And every parent alive, feel it. Will you still love your children after you die? Yeah. Yeah, I will.
Of course. Of course.
Of course you will.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter if you know them or not. It doesn't matter if you hated your father, if your father did some horrible things to you, if your mother did some horrible things to you, go past them. They obviously had bad things happen to them, and it shaped them into the kinds of people that they were, or that they are. Well, go past them, go to their parents, and you will find that they'll be there for you.
This
because
everlasting, because sorry, what did you say, Kaha? I think we spoke at the same time.
They will be there.
Yes.
Ancestors who love you are there.
Yes.
Waiting to help you.
Absolutely. And this brings me to something you shared last time we spoke, which was so beautiful, about this everlasting bond and relationship that parents establish with their child. Could you please tell us more about that song that is sung as parents welcome their child, but also as the child transitions?
Okay, so we call it ori-ori, O-R-I-O-R-I. The sad thing about it, and I'm not going to alter it, is that if you Google up that word, ori-ori, you will come to a description that says an ancient Maori practice whereby they were able to program, well, they may not use the word program, where they will put into the unborn child the understanding that when you grow up, when that child grows up, that child will have the job of going and getting revenge on these people who did these horrible things to us, right? And so my people, they have an ancient, it's not a curse, but it is like an encouragement, and it says, no what the keho. It's real simple. And what it means is, go away and breed up an army so we can go and give payback. Now, ori-ori, when you look it up on Google, will tell you that's the meaning of ori-ori. Now, the person who put that information in there didn't know that there is another meaning for ori. And the other meaning for ori is what I practice. Ori is a way in which you can make a connection to that emerging child. Okay, you can welcome that child into this world. Ori, another form of ori is when you recite ancestry, so that that child is born knowing that the ancestry that that child comes from. And some people will do that kind of ori to facilitate good birth. They will call in a specialist, one of our tūhoe, to come to the birth and chant ori and taku to facilitate a healthy birth. The way in which I practice and encourage people to use ori is not just at the birth, it's throughout the gestation period. Right from, around 3 months old, you start practicing ori. And the ori that I help them make, I teach them how to create their own one. I don't give you an ori because it really wouldn't apply. Well, I could give a very generic one, okay? But the one that I teach is I work with couples and I teach them how to design their own, relevant to themselves. And it covers quite a few different topics. And it's something that is unique to each couple, okay? It doesn't take long. And then the couple can go away and they can create, they write it out and they talk about it between themselves. They include some of her, thoughts, relatives, genealogical lines, connections, some of his, and so on and so on. And they come back and they've got the words and they can make it as long as they want, or they can make it. I try and get them not to make it any shorter than 2 verses, each verse having 4 lines. So 8 lines is kind of you don't want to go much shorter than that. But longer, yeah, you can go all night if you want. And then I also tell them you can put any tune to it you like. Any tune at all. If you're down with Bob Marley, pull his words out, stick your words in and, go for it. But what I do say to them is that it needs to be you. It needs to be you and the two of you. That's your connection to this being. And then you use this song, but you use this song in conjunction with other aspects of what I teach. In conjunction with, the massage, turning baby. There's quite a few things that you like I said in the last interview, I have heard of people singing babies into the world, and that's okay. I'm not quite sure how you do that. If you're not there every day throughout the, especially the last 2 the second and third trimesters, and that's why I teach the partners. So every day they're singing, every day that being is hearing and feeling, because our babies can feel, they can communicate, they understand. The brain doesn't suddenly kick into gear, the minute they hit oxygen. The brain is already functioning inside the waidua, the spiritual part of that being, the eternal part of that being is taking root and beginning to function by around 3 months. One of the ancient beliefs that my people have, well, it's not a belief actually, it's a knowledge, it's an oral history. And that is that I was at a wananga once and a question was asked, when do Tūhoe, because that's my people, I'm a Tūhoe person, when do Tūhoe believe that the fetus becomes human? At what point? And we were told when the eyes form. My people believe that is a Tūhoe person inside our women when the eyes have formed. And I believe that's around 10 to 12 weeks.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Is that about, correct me if I'm wrong, but I've always been told that it's at around a 10 to 12 week time when the eyes have formed.
I believe so.
That,
yeah.
yeah. That, according to our people, is when that being becomes a Tūhoe person. Before then, well, no, it wasn't. See? So from around that 10 to 12 weeks is really when the Hapuutanga practice kicks in. Before that, a lot of it is learning massage, learning, I encourage, people, women who are hapuu, who are pregnant, to, to do a bit of meditation. It doesn't have to be guided, just find a quiet space and go inside yourself, because you have a being growing inside yourself. You can talk to your child. You can talk to your ancestors. It's a great time to communicate with all of the non-physical beings who are always around you. You see? And so, your original question was?
Yes, I was going to bring us back to it. How the ori ori is sung not only as we welcome in, but also as we welcome out.
No, that's right. And so once that ori ori connection is made between the partner, okay, the papa generally, that connection is never broken. And the biological connection that is created when the papa catches baby and connects with baby's head and lifts baby out, and you are connecting to the baby through the rauroha. The rauroha is the sacred pool. We know that our oral history tells us that one of the children of the earth and the sky, he was able to ascend into the uppermost, we call it te rangi Tūhoe, the uppermost heavens. And there he was given specific knowledge from Io. And before he could have an audience with Io, he had to be cleansed. And he was cleansed in a sacred pool. And we call that sacred pool the rauroha. That is also the pool that baby grows in, inside mama. And so when baby is born, the sacred liquid that adheres to baby is exactly that. It's sacred, it's life-giving, it's cleansing. And so when his hands touch baby, okay, in the sacred waters of the rauroha, a connection is made that's never broken. That's the physical connection. The other connections are made while baby's inside the womb. You see? And so the ori ori also works at the other end. When I've gone on and my son, my daughter, on their deathbed or wherever it is that they happen to be, the place of departure, it works then too. When I'm there, I can comfort them. See, our people know that often when, especially an old person is dying, they're partly in this world and they're partly in the other world. And they're talking to their parents, their grandparents, their loved ones who have gone on. And when they become lucid again, you can actually ask them, hey, what were they saying? You see? We know this happens. And so the ori ori works from that end as well, especially if your child is having a hard time of it. You can help them. You're not telling them to leave before their time, because you have no, you're not part of that determination. All right. You do not determine when your child leaves this world, that's something else. But you can help them by calming them. It's okay. It works at both ends. Now, I must admit, I haven't had experience in this yet. A little bit difficult for me to tell you when I have, but I know it to be the case.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It feels true. Very much
Yeah.
so. Yeah.
Yeah. I know it is.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, without a doubt.
But that's audio. Sorry, that is audio. That's some of what audio can do.
Yes.
Okay. It's an amazing tool. There is more. There is still more of what audio can do and what it does do and the uses that you can actually put it to.
Well, something you said last time, which I found really interesting and important, is that you spoke of the birth process as being experienced like an earthquake for the baby, you know, and that it's kind of inherently stressful for the baby to suddenly have, you know, the its world kind of contract on its body and, you know, slowly start moving it out of its home, or what has been its home for this time. And you were speaking of how ori comes in because that association has been created between the massage and the good feelings that was given to the mother by the father or the partner whilst using ori, and how that same sound could comfort the baby through that earthquake. I'd love you to tell us more about that. And then also tell us about how, like, why is it so important to touch mamas, to massage mamas, to have them feel really good during pregnancy? Because certainly in my tradition, that is incredibly important. That's the most important thing, to make sure that mothers always feel warm and loved and held and touched, and that they get that physical contact.
Okay. Yeah. Ori. I mean, everyone should agree. Anyone who's been to a birth will agree that it is a very stressful process. And when you think about how it is for that baby, that being in there, that's it. The world as they've known for the last, you know, however long they've been conscious, is coming to an end. And there, you have no choice in the matter. One way or another, you're leaving that world. Violently? Well, if it need be, yeah, it'll be done violently. You know, I don't know anything more violent than somebody taking a very sharp instrument and cutting your mother open and then reaching in and pulling you out. It's about as violent as you can get. And that's what happens a lot. But
Too much.
even if that's not the way even if that's not the way, being forced into the birth canal, okay, and not wanting to go there, but being forced into there by the contractions, yeah, your heart rate's going to go up, all right. You're going to be wondering, because nobody's told you, oh yeah, by the way, this is, you know, in a few months' time, this is what's going to happen. Nobody's warned you, you know, and you're going, hey, I thought you loved me, and you know, and you're just being, you know, these contractions are coming, and man, you know, there's this irresistible force pushing you. So baby's heart rate goes up. But during, you know, the second and third trimester, when you have allowed baby to understand, hey, look, I'm here for you. Here I am. And every time I speak to you, nice feelings come. Ooh, that's good, you know? Because when you're speaking or singing to baby, you're also massaging mama. And mama is, you know, flooding out the oxytocin, okay? And baby's getting a healthy dose too. So every time baby is hearing you going, hey, kia ora, son, how's it going? You know, or hello, my darling, you know, my daughter, or, you know, every time you're hearing, you know, baby's hearing this voice, this communication, this energy, Baby's feeling, oh, that's nice. See, that communication, that understanding, that trust, all right, it's there. So when baby is being violently moved and baby's heart rate is going through the roof, and you start talking to baby, baby understands, oh, baby doesn't totally calm down, but baby will begin to trust you. And if you are doing it, you know, as soon as the first contraction starts, you start singing to baby. You start massaging your wife. You massage her back while she's doing this, you see? Because you know that what I'm going to teach is how to massage, but I'm also going to teach you how to apply pressure to certain points, which really lessen the pain of contraction, especially when the contraction pains are getting really close together and you're not getting a lot of time to recover from each of those. Because my wife, we found that it was always the closer the contractions got, the more violent they got, the deeper they were, you know, and the more it pushed my wife inside herself to cope with it. And so the recovery time between each of those contractions, okay, was less and less. And so what it meant was, it means that I was there to take up some of that stress, you see? And so if you start the ori early in the process, baby is beginning, by the time the contractions are getting closer and closer and closer, babies come to realize, okay, this is all right, you know, yeah, all right, I'll go along with this a little bit. Oh, hey, this is a bit freak, you know, but you're there all the time. You're connected to baby. Baby's trusting you, you see, and it helps the birth.
And then I feel it really does. It really does. And then I feel that the fathers, that the partners feel like they have a significant role as well through that experience. Because I think a lot of, I'm thinking of, you know, a couple of the beautiful fathers to be who will be there at the workshop, actually fathers that I've worked with for a bit, who do say, you know, I've had no role models in my life, of, you know, no examples of good fathers, or no men to go and speak to as I'm becoming a father. There's actually quite a young father in the group who's in his 20s and who just doesn't have that in his life, you know, and who doesn't have someone to go to learn how to be present. And as a birth keeper, I do love, I mean, I live to see couples coming closer during pregnancy and birth, and I know that I can infuse those men with a whole lot of encouragement, and really letting them know that there's no one like them really to hold their woman and to touch their woman in a way that feels really, truly good to her. But I know that there is something lacking quite generally for men, especially when it comes to just learning how to be in that space. And I think what's going to be such a beautiful gift in you coming to London and spending time with these men is for these men to, again, you know, learn what is possible, learn how it can be, how they can be present. Because I think this is something that's been totally lost, to be honest. You know, as we were saying last time, most men will be, you know, sat in a corner terrified during the birth experience, not knowing what to do, and just completely being out of it and letting another man, you know, the obstetrician, have his hands all over the woman, if not inside. And it's just so offensive on so many levels, I think, for that emerging family, you know, that is meant to come closer together during this time. And it's been, unfortunately, these families are just being, what would the word be, like the opposite from unified, you know, kind of separated in these very significant moments. And when I hear you speak, I understand how long lasting and everlasting those moments are. I mean, we know today that yes, birth, you know, pregnancy and birth are actually events and experiences that are intended to establish foundations for a whole life, you know. But then I'm thinking of that relationship, very much what you preserve through your tradition, which is that relationship, that bond, not only between mother and child, but father and child, and father and partner, and father and mother, and how important that is, you know, not just for the family, but for society, to have bonded, healthy families that are there for each other, that really show up for each other. And fathers that feel empowered. Like the fathers that I've worked with who've caught their babies, they are so proud. They are so proud. I interviewed one of them recently, and that's literally how he introduced himself. He said, my name is, you know, Chris, and I caught my daughter. Like that's how he introduced himself. And I just thought that was so beautiful, because it is a real source of pride, I think, for men when they have a beautiful, significant, meaningful role to play in a birth.
Don't get me wrong, Samara. It is really terrifying.
Oh, I'm sure it is.
and the terrifying part about it, what makes it, you know, really, really bad is when you don't know. When you, as you say, when you don't have a role model you can talk to, when you don't have experiences that you can share other people's experiences. And look, the reality is we train boys to be strong. Men don't cry. I mean, it's a vestige, it's been taken out of all proportion. Men are trained to be strong. Well, this is when you have to step up and be strong. Because the flip side of what you're saying is, I've talked to some women, okay, working with partners, and they go, no, I don't want him in the room. He's the last person I want in here. He'll end up fainting on the floor or something. Because I don't know what's going on in that relationship, but I've heard that more than once, where women say to me, I really don't want my husband in the room, you know, because the stress for her is not good.
Well, that shouldn't be forced, right? I mean, if she doesn't want him around, I think that's the right way.
But here's the thing. Here's the thing with that. With a little bit of information, you know, with a little bit of practice, you can turn it around. And I did. Working with a couple, and I was able to turn it around and get him to feel confident enough to be there. Yes, he was going to have a very proficient doula with him, and she'd been working with me for a while. And so she was going to be there to help him, but he felt much better. They had a few sessions with me, and she felt better. It was just that when they first came to me, she was saying, no, I don't want him in the room because he'll stress me out. And that's because they didn't understand. He didn't know what to do, and he felt terrible. He had to be dragged along to this meeting. But afterwards, after they'd done a couple of sessions with me, and he'd become, you know, oh yeah, okay, is this what you do? And she's going, oh, that's lovely. And he starts feeling, oh, I can do this. You know, he starts believing in himself. That's Hapuutanga. It's about giving our couples a sense of belief in themselves, whether it is through connecting to their ancestral power, or whether it's through just practicing some of the things I'm teaching and then going away doing it, having another session or however many sessions it takes before he starts going, oh yeah, I can do this. I can do this. And she's, you know, giving him, oh, that's nice, honey. Oh, that feels really good. You know, see? So that's what Hapuutanga is about. It's about empowering people, couples, men, women. Believe in yourself. You can do it. It's still freaking scary. And that's when us men, you've got to stand up here. You've got to put your hand up and say, okay, I'm going to be there for my wife and my child. Scary as this is, I'm going to do it. You just got to be brave. It's a different kind of braveness, though. You know, it's not the like, you know, it's not the kind of braveness, you know, where you can walk into a group of you know, gangsters and just start bashing them all up yourself because, you know, you're tough. It's a different kind of braveness. You've got to be brave. and you've got to believe in yourself. And with a little bit of help and a little bit of information and a little bit of practice, it's beautiful to see.
Oh, absolutely. As I said, like the moments I've had moments where, yeah, I've really felt deep down like this is what I live for, you know, to see those,
Yep.
you know, those eyes glistening and those couples like coming closer together than they ever have before, because they're seeing a whole other part of the other. Yeah, truly beautiful. So I'm really encouraging, we have a few spaces left for the workshop, and I'm really encouraging our men to join us. I mean, interestingly enough, we mostly have couples on board, a couple of birth keepers, but mainly couples actually that feel very drawn to doing this work together at different stages of pregnancy. So please, you know, please, if you feel called to this workshop, please join us. It's going to be very intimate and just a beautiful opportunity to learn from Te Kaha himself, and yeah, and to pass these beautiful teachings on, you know. Yeah, because one day our children will be parents, right? And what a gift
Yep.
to give them these tools and traditions and practices. And I'm trying to think if I've got any more questions for you, Te Kaha, if there's anything else that you would like to share. I mean, there is something that you wrote, which I will read because it was not only beautifully written, but I think something that a lot of people like myself will be curious about. You wrote, in ancient Tūhoe tradition, it was the husband, father, or even brother who was the main kai mahi hapuu, birthing doula. We as men need to reassert ourselves in supporting, encouraging, and empowering our wives through bringing into this world the spirits who have chosen us to be their guardians. And there is something about that, about the fact that within your tradition, it was the men who were the guardians of the birth space. I'd love you to tell us more about that, because it makes sense to me. It makes a lot of sense. And again, I think it's just a matter of men feeling confident enough to really be able to step into that role. But I can see, I haven't crossed that threshold yet, but I can totally see that if I was in the presence of a man who was really secure in himself and confident and who I deeply trusted, that would enable me to go deep within, because I would feel like I could do that, you know. And I know certainly, like, something that I focus very deeply in my work is to get comfortable with entering an altered state, going so deeply within that your mind, you know, has totally been surrendered and you really are living a body-led experience. And that's something that we practice with the couples that I support. But I know for sure that many people will not allow themselves to go that deeply within, simply because they don't feel safe. Not only because we never get the opportunity to practice surrendering our minds and going deep within and being led by the body and by our instincts, but also because we don't feel safe in our environment. But how wonderful to have, you know, that masculine presence who's totally guarding the space. I can totally see how that would, or how that does actually, because I do sometimes get to witness how that does enable women to really, 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 truly go within and trust.
So if you have a look at traditional society, you would have a look and you would see that within our environment, you know, our hapuu. Hapuu can loosely be translated to a village, a small village, or you can have big hapuu, a big village. And so what would happen was when hunting and gathering, you know, one of the best foods that we had, because remember, before the colonizer arrived in my country, we had no animal. There were no pigs, cows, sheep, you know. Some of our ancestors bought the dog, but even before that, and with the dog, they bought the rat. But before that, there was no animals. The closest thing to an animal was the bat. So we had birds and fish, okay? And our country can be quite cold at certain times of the year. And to help with the cold, you need fat. Okay. And there are only certain animals, birds, that will give you fat, and certain fish. One of the most amazing birds to give sustenance was, you call it the wood pigeon, we call it the kereru. Now, the kereru was an amazing source of food. It would eat a certain berry, and that berry was really high in, essential nutrients. Say we call it the miro berry. And what it would do, it'll when the miro berries are ripe, it'll sit in that tree and it will gorge itself. It will eat so much that it's so fat it can't fly. So, but these trees, a mature miro berry tree is 500 years old. They're huge, right? So it's pretty safe up there because there were no predators really for birds in this country. So it would sit up in the trees and it would gorge itself, and it would get so fat that it wouldn't fly. And it would just keep gorging and gorging, and it would just be absolutely fat as and really nice to eat. So our people would harvest these birds, okay? And this was what we would call the kaya te ranatira, the food of the chiefs, right? And this food, okay, was given to the pregnant women first, then the old people and the children, then the rest of the women, and then the men would get the last. This is the process on how the food was distributed. Always the pregnant woman would be fed first with the most nourishing foods, and then the old people and the children, and then the other, warrior age women, and then the men. That's the process. So the whole village life was geared towards supporting the coming generations. You see, the children were educated by the grandparents, the grandmothers, and the grandfathers, because it freed up the women, okay, to be doing their part and the men to be doing their part, right? And so when it came to understanding and working and doing the massage, yes, there were women who would help the women do certain things, but there were also the partners. And the traditional, when you lie, when you go back to your sleeping space, you are with your husband, your partner, the father of your child, the biological donor, however you want to describe him. So he's the one there helping you, because this is an extension of his line as much as yours. So he's got a vested interest. This is traditional. Mm-hmm. What's been lost is the actual work. Well, not so much lost, but put to sleep. It's been put to sleep. And what's been put to sleep is, in today's world, is the actual physical input, the emotional input, the spiritual input that us men have, can have, should have. Mm-hmm. Now we've been bred to step aside. We've been bred to trust in a medical profession. We've been, we've been colonized into not believing in ourselves. Mm-hmm. That's what it is.
Totally. And it's almost a strange culture of handing over one's power to another man, to the obstetrician, who somehow knows better, knows your woman's body better. I mean, how insane is that?
It's right up there amongst, the really crazy things that are done in today's world. It's right up there. That's how insane that is. Yeah. The cool thing though is that you only need to do it once. You only need to practice Hapuutanga once. You're never handing away your power ever again. Like I said, the true meaning behind the word atua is ancestral power in its fullest potential. And I've got to tell you, when you are there working on this being who has chosen you, when you are there to catch this being, okay, you begin to touch for a very short time part of that potential. You really tap into it. And it's something that once you've been there, yeah, you don't ever want to give it away again. Because it's an amazing feeling. I fully understand why that man introduced himself as I caught my daughter. They talk about significant events in our lives. Well, you probably won't get much more significant than that. Well, aside from dying, I suppose, you know. There's not a lot in the world that is more significant than catching your child when it enters the world.
Oh, I totally agree. And how strange is it that we can all recognize that out of all our life experiences, that probably is the most significant. And yet we look at how we treat it, you know?
We give it away.
Yeah.
We step aside.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, the sad thing is that so many families, they perpetuate the model of fear. I touched on it a little bit in the last podcast we did, and that was, you know, they go, well, you know, have you had your checkup? Okay, you know, have you had your scan? Who's your doctor? You know, and when you, like, this was happening with my wife because her mother was a nurse her whole life. And when she stopped being a nurse, she became the office manager for a group of doctors. And, you know, we're over here on the other side of the world. She's in Scotland, and she's saying to my wife, well, look, have you got your, you know, your suite booked? You know, you're only little, you know, because my wife is like 5'1.5" or something like that. She says she's 5'2", but all right, she's 5'2". She was 50 kg when we first got hapuu, you know, and her mother is on the phone to her just about every other day, right throughout their first pregnancy. And the thing is, they inject fear, but they do it because they love you. That's pretty twisted. You put fear into your daughter because you love her. You see what I mean? And families do. Families do it because they love you, but they don't know what they're doing. They're actually putting doubt into your mind. They're putting fear into you that you've got to have an exam, you've got to have a scan, you've got to have a good doctor. You don't want, you know, and they use terms like, you wouldn't want anything untoward to happen to baby. Real fear stuff.
Because, yeah, and I can see where that comes from, because it's just a perception thing, right? To them, where the security lies is in the hospital. What makes birth safe? And it's one of the first questions I ask every couple I work with. Oh, you know, to you, what makes birth safe? And from their answer, I can always tell where they're at. Because to some people, the medical paradigm is so real that yes, the safest place to give birth is in hospital, with all the doctors and all the technology and all the instruments and all the drugs. And of course, if that's your reality, if that's your perception, and you deeply love your daughter, then that's what you want for her. But I think we really need to come into full awareness of what is happening within our hospitals these days. It is not safe. It is not safe.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Samara, can I just interrupt for a second?
Yes, of course.
All right. If you owned a multi-million-dollar company and you wanted to award a contract, would you only research one contractor and then give that contractor the multi-million-dollar contract? Or would you look around and see and get yourself, oh yeah, we'll check this one out and check that one out, and then once you've done your due diligence, as they call it, or your research, oh right, okay, we'll go with this. Come and check out what Hapuutanga is. If you're looking to be hapuu or pregnant, come and check out what Hapuutanga is, and then check out what, you know, they call it allopathic medicine. Well, I call it intervention medicine, you know, mainstream medicine, because that's all about intervening in the natural process.
Yes.
Right? That's why I call it intervention medicine. check out what that kind of medicine is like, and then come and check out what Hapuutanga is about. Then make your choice. So, you know, if a person comes in and says they feel most safe in a hospital, I'd say, great, I'm really pleased that you're here. Come over here, and when you finish this workshop with us, then let's ask you that question again, and we'll see which one you feel you're more safe.
Absolutely.
I welcome people who truly believe that hospitals are the safest place to give birth. Please come along to my workshop, because, you know, how could you, in all good faith, not research other ways of doing something, especially something as important as bringing your child into this world?
Oh,
That's
I
my
wholeheartedly agree. I wholeheartedly agree. And this is the vision for Birth a New Story, is the awareness from, you know, having supported couples for quite a while now, that most people just do not know what's possible for them. And as soon as they do, they make different choices, always.
That's right.
Always.
That's
It's just that most people just do not know. It's become, the medical model has become such a dominant norm that people cannot see beyond it. And because it's so soaked in fear and limiting beliefs, it's almost, that's why we're starting with the documentaries, is in dissolving the limiting beliefs and the fears, because only then will people be open to even exploring what's beyond that, right? Birth is not something to fear at all.
Yep.
At all.
Look,
Something to be enjoyed.
I am not against, you know, medicine practice, you know, trauma medicine, spot on. Absolutely. You know, our doctors, our nurses, our hospitals are amazing when it comes to trauma medicine. Birthing.
Do you mean Tika, do you mean like severe
like
accidents?
A&E.
Yes, A&E.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Accident and emergency. That kind of medicine, definitely on you know.
Oh,
rescue,
totally. You want them there. You want them there when that
they're
happens.
amazing. They're amazing.
Of course.
They're absolutely amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Birthing, yeah, you guys need to, you know, they really do need you know, to have a look around, and people need to be given a choice, you know, because you don't have a choice if you've only got one choice.
Oh, totally.
That's not free will. That's not free thinking. That's control. That's power and control. That's domination. That's having one system, okay, which is one size fits all. You people are not allowed to be different. You don't have a choice if you're not given a choice. And only having one model to go by, that's not a choice. Come and have a listen to some Hapuutanga. And if it sounds like baloney, all good. You know, the hospitals are always there. They'd love to take your money. All right. It's yeah, they'll always be there, I suppose. Maybe that's me being.
Oops. Oh no, I believe Tikaha left us. Oh well. Maybe I'll close this session before I get back in touch with him. I will leave the workshop notes down below. So for anyone interested, you have all the details you need to join us in October in London for Tikaha's Hapuutanga workshop. And again, I'm just infinitely grateful for your ongoing support, and all your support, all the support we received through the crowdfunding just meant so much to me. This thunder exploding here in London. Yeah, I'm sending you all so much love, and we'll be back in touch very soon.